number one. Secondly, welcome to the Radnor Township Shade Tree Commission meeting for March 2010. There are two items on the agenda this evening, and I have been informed there is a significant health care issue with one of the presenters of these two items on the agenda, and we will be reversing the order of the agenda because of the health issue of one of those members. So the first one we will be addressing is the Agnes Irwin School. If you could please come to the table and identify yourselves. And I ask you to describe your issue clearly within the microphone. We've had some problem with that in the past meeting. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Kevin McCullough from the Agnes Irwin School. I'm the Director of Finance and Facilities, and I'm here to describe the project in the broadest sense and as part of the school's master plan with Radnor Township, and to introduce and to welcome along with me Mara Baird, our landscape architect, and Joe Hanna from Chambers Engineering, who is doing our site work. I wanted to let you know that this project represents the third phase of the school's master plan for campus development, and as such is the evolution of the school's vision for a new athletic center, a new main entry, and a new dining center, and to update the existing facilities as they exist now in their current form and installed in 1961 to the current day. So with that in place, I'll let Mara continue.
Okay. I'd like to provide the first sheet. Is this? Can you see this clearly?
Yes, and maybe turn the microphone so you
Okay.
can speak.
As supplementary information to the information that you already have, this sheet indicates the tree removals within a single sheet so that you can see where on the site the demolition. Other way? Upside down. Counterintuitive. Yeah. Well, I'm supposed to know what's on here. So the species that are being removed are identified up here in the corner. The caliper of the trees was already identified on the demolition plans that you received. And highlighted in orange, you can see the location of the plants that are being removed. The predominant areas of removal are here along Ithan Avenue in front of the existing school. And then on either side of the existing tennis courts, there's fairly large planting of evergreen trees and shrubs on the north side of the tennis courts, and then some deciduous trees on the south side. So the total of removals of 6-inch caliper or greater is 46 trees. I guess just some other comments about what's shown here. Really the only location on the site where the new construction is adjacent to a property boundary is here at the southern property boundary. This portion is owned by Agnes Irwin School, and this is it's a residential property by another homeowner. And what you see in the striped area here, and I can leave an additional copy of the plan if you like. It's not a surveyed location, but it is an approximate location of existing trees. A large group of tilia, relatively mature, between 16 and 24 inch in this area here. Some planting that the Agnes Irwin School has done, white pines and red maple. And then adjacent to the corner here, this property, again, a large oak off-site, large pine off-site, and a fraxinus that's just on the edge of the property. The trees that are shown, I'm not sure what year the survey was done. The trees that are shown as clouds here along this property line actually do not exist. So what actually exists along this property line is shown in the striped here. In terms of other site conditions, the existing site on the east border is heavily planted off-site. It's mostly mature woodland. The on-site, the sports fields are quite close to the property boundary. The slopes between the sports field and the property line are steep, and particularly within this area of site, there's quite a lot of rock in the soil. So I just wanted to note that as a general site condition. All right. In terms of what's indicated on the plans that you have received is the proposed planting as well as the requirements by code, both for pertaining to tree removals and replacements, and then design requirements for planting adjacent to the construction. I guess what I'd like to do is walk you through the planting around the site and explain the rationale for how things were distributed, because in some cases we have flexed a little bit from the strict interpretation of the code because of existing site conditions and concern for the health of existing trees off-site.
If I could interrupt just a minute here. I would like to introduce the commission. They have not seen any of this prior, so I would just like to introduce the plan to several of us. This is the whole area that is being involved in this, in this project. And one of the problems that I saw with the plan is, even though the trees that were to be removed are identified, the species were not included. Also, this is a multiple sheet display of the site and the implications of the removals on the entire site. So when I saw this approach, excuse me, I went back to Agnes Irwin and said to them that we had to clarify the species that were being removed, not just the size. And also, if they could condense that in a form that we could more easily understand than paging through multiple sheets. And that is what they're attempting to express tonight. Pardon?
This sheet up there, would that be helpful?
Is there a sheet that displays the removals and their species
Yes, that
as
would be
well as size?
this sheet here.
Okay, yeah, I think you will have to, because we can't see that on these little 12-inch screens.
Actually, I have another sheet if you want to, I don't know if you want to gather around, but
Okay.
and I've highlighted the sizes were already located on the plans, but the species are identified here. So you have another copy? Yes, I did. So I have two more.
And would you again tell us, the orange signifies what?
I thought it would be easier if I just highlighted the trees that are being removed, so,
So the orange highlighted ones are being removed?
yes.
Okay.
And then again, the striped, the hatched trees at the southern boundary are just identifying trees that were not located on the survey that are within the first 10 feet of the property boundary along the construction zone.
So the issue is driving this, are those tennis courts being removed?
They are, yes.
Okay, and in its place,
In its place are proposed tennis courts. Joe, do you have them on one sheet? Because this is split on this.
Let me try it on this sheet, which is actually the record plan that's in the set. The only thing I've done to this is I've added this little piece of paper here which shows where the existing gym and dining are, so that you can get oriented to the removal plan.
But they're all being demolished.
Okay, yeah, this is all being demolished. So this shaded area is the footprint of the new gym and dining.
And the tennis court's underneath part of that new addition, is
The
that
tennis
correct?
court is underneath part of that new addition, and the tennis court is underneath part of the new tennis court.
So you're basically just moving that back towards the back property line.
That's correct.
And so any trees or whatever in the way got to move, or?
That's correct. And then the tennis court, the separate tennis courts over in this area is being completely removed. It's actually there's a set of several courts all together, one part of the property, and then another court by itself. So they're being combined into 4 courts altogether.
okay, that helps anchor the project for the commission. I thank you for that explanation. Okay, Mayor, do you want to move forward with your planting?
The portions of the code that apply here in terms, other than tree replacement, is a design requirement for planting street trees along new construction along Ithan Avenue, providing parking lot trees and parking lot landscape for any lot greater than 2,000 square feet, which would be this lot here. Providing buffering, there would be a mixed buffer along the Ithan Avenue frontage, and then requirement for an evergreen buffer along the east and south portions that are residential, adjacent properties are residential. The approach that's been taken overall, if I can just walk you briefly through the site, is on the west portion of site that is in front of the more historic buildings of the lower school. What's being proposed for the supplementary planting for parking that's being added in this area would be a circle of magnolias and cherries around the great lawn here that provides a lot of social function for the school. In front of the new parking lot along Ithan Avenue.
Can you pull that plan down just a little?
Oh, sure.
That's better, okay.
Planting is proposed in front of the new parking to provide both to meet both the street tree requirements here and also to provide buffering for the parking from Ithan Avenue as required, the buffer A. Planting within the new parking area to provide shade trees and landscape areas. And then on the east side of that, to begin to pick up some evergreen planting to provide buffering, the evergreen buffer for the residential properties to the east. The approach that's been taken regarding the evergreen buffer at the south portion of the site here.
Excuse me, but you're putting evergreen buffering, but then you're going to have a great big field between there and the next property line, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, correct, except then on the very eastern property line, there are, I don't know if you can, there's evergreen buffer here, and then there's the intervening field, and then there's additional evergreen buffer on this property line. And I guess what I wanted to point out in terms of the buffering that's happening along the eastern boundary and the southern boundary, the code requires an evergreen tree every 15 feet and a evergreen shrub every 8 feet. The approach that's been taken here is to take the total number of plants that would be required for the linear feet of development and to space them further apart for a few reasons. One, as I mentioned, particularly on this property edge, the planting on the opposite side of the fence is quite dense, a mature canopy, and I expect there will be some root conflict in terms of trying to plant that dense a planting. The slopes along this property edge are quite steep, and again, we have some rock very close to surface. So what this proposes is to take the total number of plants and to distribute them along the entire east and south property line.
Okay. To whomever is in the control booth, and Mara, if you can slide the removal and the planting more to the middle, and if we can take a look at, okay, take her down a little bit, Mara. Down the other way. Nah, it's,
The other left.
yeah, more towards you. There we go.
We want to see more of the bottom. Push it up. Like that?
No, I would like to, I'm trying to focus in on the removals and the planting. The list of, right.
Oh, the list of
Yeah, so that needs to be slid down, and now we take it over that way. Okay, there, excellent. That's good, right there. So this is what's going back in, and also what is coming, is being taken down.
Just to note that the plant lists, the counts on the plant lists are split between the east and the west planting. So on both sheets for deciduous canopy, it will list the total number that is being planted across the project. But then if you come underneath and look at the species list, it will only identify the number that are located on that sheet.
Mm-hmm.
You were just more to discuss the species selection?
That's what I'm trying to reason on here.
Okay. Mara, with the use of, there's one spruce species, the black spruce, and then there's red pine, and then fastigiate white pine. Is there a reason why you chose black spruce, which I think of as not being terribly heat tolerant, but maybe there's a reason why you chose that for this spot?
Well, it's a nice plant. I'm not entirely married to that selection. If you would rather see something else.
I guess, and then red pine, I think of as it ages, not giving a real good a real good screening. So if a lot of this is for screening, I'd encourage you to maybe replace some of those with. I think of as you know, I'm quite fond of western red cedar and the cultivars like Green Giant like it as being very shade tolerant, so they stay as good screening material over time and take and generally will take deer pressure pretty well
Okay.
too. So I wouldn't say you'd have to replace them all, but I'd suggest using some of those.
And the fastigiate pine, the only reason that is, the primary reason that that's on the list is that some of the planting that the school has done along the southern border has included that. So it was just the idea to repeat some plant themes around the perimeter.
Yep. And whereas I think that's a fairly good one, and that seems to lose its branches less than the straight species of eastern white pine, and as well as being narrower as a young plant and being more of a better screening plant than the straight species would be.
And the concern I have is some of the species that are suggested as being removed are of significant canopy, and what is, the deciduous canopy, and what is being replaced is primarily ornamental. If there's any opportunity to spread more large canopy trees in this mix, that's one of our missions here. We're somewhat alarmed at the amount of large canopy that's being taken down across the whole region, not just Radnor. So if there's any opportunity to add more large canopy, we would welcome that.
And I just saved the school some money with the western red cedars, and so actually you'd have some extra money in your tree budget if you wanted to.
Up front and over the life of the tree.
Up front and over the life, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I had to think about the question there.
Howard, just on a side note, is there room for any cryptomeria in there, do you think, just to mix things up? Would that be a suggestion that we could make?
And I'd agree that cryptomeria or Japanese cedars would be also a good replacement for, and very shade tolerant, and it would tolerate those conditions well, and it'd be a good screening plant over the long term.
Okay.
Because it's so much faster growing than the pine and the spruce that we're taking out, you're again saving money.
There was a question about some steep slopes and some marginal soil. Is there going to be improvements made to the site condition as far as being more favorable to these plants to live, as far as retaining walls or the excavation of this rocky material so that these trees can have a chance to get going?
Well, I guess I'll begin without having had a lot of conversations about the full construction process, but particularly on this border, as I said, I have a lot of concerns about too much disturbance to the soil because of the potential impact it could have on the roots of the trees adjacent. I think in the corner of the property, which would be this area, which is more open, there's more open space, and I think doing proper soil amendments would be pretty easy to do there.
Okay, again, we're having trouble focusing on the specific area you're,
In this is
Okay,
the,
okay.
the lower southeast corner of the
Okay.
property.
And do the regulations require a certain size tree be put in?
They do. I think it's either 5 to 6. I think 5 to 6 is the minimum.
And you're doing 7 to 8?
Yes.
Okay. And what you might go with smaller and more, and then up the watering. I don't know the site, but generally, from what I'm understanding, the soil conditions, if you'd go with a smaller tree that you put in, and then make sure that they get watered that first year that they're put in, I think you should have pretty good success, and probably don't have to do a lot of changing of the soils then.
The key to in this marginal soil and steep slopes, the key to survivability is going to be adequate moisture. So supplemental irrigation is going to be the key at the time of planting to make sure that their survivability is going to make it through the year, especially in this critical area along the Browning Lane side where there's going to be a lot of visual impact for the neighbors right away to your project. So we want to get those trees going and get them up. So some drip irrigation or something at the time of planting is going to be critical to make sure that those plants can make it.
Thank you. We understand that. In our last project out, the construction of the Arts and Science Center also had steep slopes, and we installed an evergreen buffer of the fastigiate pines, of deodara, cedar, a variety of spruce, holly, and we're fortunate that we've lost none of them over that time. It's a wonderfully becoming mature now buffer, so thank you for that.
okay, great. And again, Bill's suggestion about the cryptomeria is quite tolerant of various conditions and is very quick growing and very dense. Is it Yoshino is the one that maintains its branches, right? It does not lose its lower.
Yoshino's a good cultivar for this area. Yeah,
Okay.
that's probably one of the most successful. In the circle, the parking, and then the circle area where you're using magnolias, Are they all the Lobner magnolias in that, the planting you're showing on the screen is
Yes.
exactly what I'm talking about, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, and I assume there's strong feeling of wanting magnolias that, to be a real strong blooming one, but otherwise that, I would think would be quite wonderful using a tree that would get bigger.
But my thinking behind that in discussions with Mara are largely based on the fact that we have a row of the ballerina magnolias at the entrance to the campus. They've been installed for over 10 to 12 years now, and on a night like tonight or a day like today, they're extremely impressive and welcoming. As you know, a pleasant and strong branching habit. And so I wanted to be able to repeat and remind and reflect on that, and the addition of the cherries was to offset that with what we thought was a complementary tree, same general flowering time, and again, extending that which we had started some years ago, so hopefully that would meet with your approval.
Okay, no, I mean, there is an aesthetic to all of this, but again, we would encourage you to find other areas for your larger canopies, if possible. I guess the other mystery for me is the grading aspect. And can you speak to the changes in grading and how it might affect nearby trees? Again, it's multiple sheets, and as I was reviewing this several nights ago, it was difficult for me to understand or grasp how many of the trees that are being removed or preserved may be affected by grading.
I don't know if I have a plan that, I'm going to use the erosion control plans because they sort of have a limit of disturbance to them and grading, but they become difficult to read because there's a lot of information on them. So that's the, this is in your plan set. This is sheet 19 of 40. This is the drawings that were submitted to the Delaware County Conservation District. The whole set was submitted, but this is what they concentrate on. And there's a heavier, darker line which we show on this as what the limits of disturbance would be as far as grading. So that might give some indication. Mara and I did look at this. I think most of the trees are coming out primarily due to construction. There's very few that were where we didn't take a closer look and try to minimize the grading so we could save a tree. So
Excuse me, the dark black lines, the limit of the,
is the limit of what will be our
Okay,
our
your area.
permit area for the NPDES permit. Not every piece of that is disturbed, but
yeah.
you know.
But
it's-
down in the far right corner, there are these trees right at the, if you look up there, you see, because you only have a piece of it. Bottom right corner, way down, to the right.
Over here?
You just took it off the screen.
Oh.
Those trees there are the ones that are right at the edge of being disturbed, right there.
The pines.
Those are all going to disappear, right? Or are they?
These are shown to be removed.
Only one.
Only one.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a walkway up to the tennis courts, so it's minimal, it's not, I'll call construction
Yeah.
grading.
So for instance, somewhere south of the new tennis courts is a 28-inch tilia that's remaining. So where will the,
That's this, so my point.
okay, so there is,
Yeah, this is a retaining wall.
that is existing.
No, this is a proposed retaining wall which cuts the grade of the tennis court down
Okay.
into the side of the hill.
Will it disturb the roots of the tree?
So how close is that to the tree?
Well, you're
This
1
is-
in
this is
20,
about
right?
20 feet, about 20 feet from the tree on this side.
So that should be, that's under the canopy, and you'll be, the wall is 20 feet from the trunk of the tree. Your disturbance of the soil will be 5 feet closer to the tree, 10 feet closer to the tree?
I would say a maximum of 5 feet, especially since we know this is a rock area here, so we won't have, big cutback that you would typically have for soil behind the retaining wall.
Joe and I actually did talk about this particular tree. In terms of what's shown on the grading plan, I think it's feasible that it could be saved. The issue will be construction sensitivity, to make sure that the wall is built from that side in and the tree is fully protected during construction. So that is, I think you picked probably the most sensitive tree within the project area that's designated to remain.
And so this drawing doesn't show tree protection fencing. You have another drawing that does show that, is that right?
That's correct.
And Mara, do you remember how close where that goes with that tree then?
I do not.
Okay. But that would, and do you remember, would that be 15 feet then from the tree?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you know which page that would be on?
It should be on the demolition plan. Sheet 4 through 8, something like that, I believe.
4 through 8.
They're broken down to a larger scale so you can see the work easier.
So it'd be the next one down from there.
There's an index up at the top right corner of the drawings.
So you don't have the set, do you? Okay.
Well,
So-
yes, I have the set.
Get a little closer. There. Here we go. Okay, it is sheet 8 of 40. But I'm not seeing protection.
Or is that the wrong-
We'll make sure that gets added to this drawing.
But is it the correct drawing?
This is the correct drawing. This is for the demolition, yes.
Yeah, they're gonna kill this baby off, leave that there.
Howard, would there be any tree preservation specifications to be noted with that?
Yeah, of course, we need your tree protection fence. Also, when a tree of that stature is being infringed upon, we typically recommend that it be fed prior to any construction, that the roots be literally cut, not ripped out with a backhoe, and that a professional arborist be on board at the time that tree's system is being intruded upon. Okay?
Yeah. And then the other thing, in that you are going to extra expense to save that tree, it's worth your while to make sure that the construction individuals do not move that fence once it's out there. They have, a lot of construction individuals feel that they can just quickly move that fence, and it's the 1 hour rule. If they only move it for an hour and disturb the soil and put it back, everything's fine. And so that, it's a tree that's worth saving and worth the extra effort then.
Sometimes we would recommend a non-movable permanent fence be installed for a time during construction.
Yeah, chain link rather than snow fence.
In this particular project, we will be using a lot of that anyway because we need to protect the construction areas from the children. So,
Mhm.
you know, that's just a little bit more involvement as far as limiting the construction areas and separating that from the school activities.
Mhm.
Can I see that?
Yeah.
What is construction duration? A year?
I would think a year to year and a half. This project will more than likely be phased in. I think 18 months is probably more realistic.
And then just to the east of the utility that we were talking about is a black cherry, the Prunus serratina. Will that have any construction near that, the 16-inch cherry?
Is this here? What we're doing now?
Yes.
Yes.
No, there's no construction proposed, other than this step and walkway to the tennis court, which is an at-grade construction.
That's an 18-inch tree, and you're, again, if you're 1 in 20, approximately how far do we think we are away from it?
That again's about 20 feet.
Okay, I think we would recommend the same scenario for that. See anything else,
Do you have a
Bill?
good system for figuring this out? So I'm looking at, what I'm looking at are the large trees that are remaining and how close construction will come to them. So Mara, maybe you know the site well, if there are any, we should review where, just like with that basswood that we were just talking about, we've discovered that there wasn't fencing for, and I just want to make sure there's adequate protection for any of the remaining trees.
I think the things that we talked about in particular were certainly those two trees. They were the proposed walk construction along Ithan Avenue, where there's an existing row of red maples, mostly it looks like 6 to 8 inches red maples along Ithan Avenue. So protection of those during construction of the walk would be important.
And they're currently 6 to 8 inches in diameter, the
Correct.
trunk diameter?
Yeah. And then what I also noted, and I guess there's still some design development going on this portion of site that's the proposed terrace and patio. There's an existing willow, 22-inch, and an 8-inch larch that are to remain. And I have suggested that perhaps the design be amended to allow them a greater less root impact.
So the willow is 23 inches and the larch is 8 inches?
Mhm.
Okay.
You're building the terrace around them?
The idea was that this was going to be a, sort of a pervious concrete type terrace area. So yes, the terrace was going to go around them.
It looks from here as though you're gonna have like those square grates or something, is that what you're talking about? Or am I misunderstanding?
This is just to show that they're leaving that opening around the.
What is
trunk
the
of trunk.
dimensions on that opening?
The final sort of detailed layout of the terrace is completed, but what we're showing on here is about 10 by 10 feet
In both cases,
in both cases.
is that enough?
And did you say it's pervious or not pervious?
Pervious,
And concrete?
yeah, like a concrete paver block type of.
Okay.
What is, what's your construction or start date impact if we were to ask you folks to come back a month from now with some clarifications on some of the questions that are being raised tonight?
We appeared before.
Yeah.
We have final land development appearances on the 5th, the 12th, and the 26th of next month. And our intention was to bring this before you for approval in advance of that,
Mm-hmm.
and in accordance with the application and submission.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any problem with revising these plans and getting them back to the township with these comments.
Mike, I intimately understand your concern for trees such as this, and I have an equal concern. In fact, I planted the Salix niobe as a memorial tree for a deceased student, and that was in the mid-'80s, and the larch dates back to just before that, when the original Arts Center was completed in 1981. So I've been there slightly longer than that, since 1977, and I would be very concerned for any construction impact on many of these trees. So,
Mm-hmm. No, I understand your stewardship. The thing that we're having a difficult time with is getting our mind around. I mean, it's not a simple, one lot, housing kind of project, and again, it's multiple sheets. It's normally not presented in this fashion. There's usually, one sheet that suggests, all the trees that are going to be removed, their size, their species, the grading impact on that, the trees that are to remain. And I'm asking that because I'm going to need to reach out to you all to make sure that you're comfortable with what you're hearing.
What precisely, what are we asking them to come back? Just those particular 4 trees or 5 trees, or the whole thing in general?
Okay, tree protection has not been included. And we've got 5 trees in question. Okay, there's been species change recommendations. And if you all are comfortable with that basis, then if they would make those corrections and bring them back to the Township Engineering, division, I'm okay. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Just had a couple more questions, a little bit undefined as far as the sidewalk along Ethan Avenue that's going to kind of meander through the young maple trees. Was that, did I hear that correct? I didn't.
There was a concept to do that, probably overlap between Mara finishing her landscape plans and us finishing our land development plans, but we realized there would be too much of an impact on those trees by meandering it, so we've pulled it back from the road and made it straight. So on the development plans that are submitted to the township and in this set, it's straight sidewalk as far away from the tree as we can get it. And then there's a couple spots where it accesses back out to the roadway between the trees. The one exhibit, I think that Mara had showed it meandering, which is something that we discussed about a month ago, but after looking at all the different options, we decided to make it straight.
Okay, so on our plan, it showed meandering, but on the plan that you're going to submit, it's straight?
In the set of plans that you have, it should be straight.
On the engineering
On the
sheets.
engineering.
On the engineering sheets, it's shown straight. I was doing the planting plan on a base that had not been amended with regard to that walk.
You have another number? What's wrong over here?
The number of, the number of the streets.
It's shown on the overall record plan, which is the first sheet.
Sheet one?
So sheet 2 of 40.
Yeah.
Sheet two?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, next one. That's it, is this along here?
It's this along here.
Okay,
And then,
Right in-
when we went through preliminary plan, we had received comments from the planning commission and the commissioners to have a couple spots where we access the roadway so that people could have access as a public sidewalk. Because it's set back on our side of the right-of-way where typically it would be out in front of the trees, but that's already paved out there, so we pulled it onto the landscape side of the fence and trees.
but some of those trees will be between the sidewalk and the street. Is that
All
why it's
all
pulled
the
back here?
trees will be between the sidewalk and,
Okay.
basically, the post and rail fence is in line with the trees, so it's post and rail fence, tree, gap, post and rail fence,
I remember that. My kids play soccer there.
right.
Right along here. That's what this is.
Right, but the trees are down here, right?
But there are trees along here too.
The
Oh,
whole thing.
okay.
See the spots?
Ah, okay. Got it, okay.
The trees are a line of Acer rubrum that we planted in 1997 when the field, the sports field was renovated. And as such, have grown to the current caliber since then.
So in the
You can see some of them
east,
here.
there's,
See the
am I re-
Lexus?
yeah, it's, the sidewalk is several feet from the existing trees on the west. It's right at the trees, isn't it?
But that's in the area where the parking loop is, right? That's where he's now talking about.
This,
Yes, so if you go over where the parking loop is, where there are the existing red maples.
Oh,
Yes, okay.
Correct.
In fact, there it almost looks like the sidewalk goes through the trunk of the trees. Am I not reading that correctly, or maybe I'm not
are
reading
these
that
the
correctly?
trees?
No,
Okay,
on this
that's the
section,
fence?
there's existing curb, and the idea is to construct a sidewalk right along the curb, and then there's the post and rail fence. The trees are on the school side of the post and rail fence, so there shouldn't be any impact to the,
And these are sycamore
for the sidewalk.
on this
Okay,
western
that,
portion.
yeah, that's different than what we're seeing on page 3, I think. so.
correct.
Okay.
But the key is that in that particular place, the sidewalks are between the trees and the street, whereas in the other, it's the other way around.
Correct.
Does that make sense? Here's the sidewalk.
Right,
And there are
okay.
trees out here.
Yeah, yeah, I was looking at this, and it's different there. Would you like to see the plan again, or you think it's all right for the engineer?
No, again, I think I need to understand, what the impact would be if this were to come back to us next month. This is, I mean, we're all here interpreting this as best as we can. And we could be here for another hour and may even discover other things. I personally think that we need, as a commission, we need more time to decipher the whole package. Again, the multiple sheets, and we understand you're good stewards, but again, this is a different presentation than we're normally used to.
Will this, if we don't approve it till next month, what will that do to your schedule going before the other commissions and so forth? Will that have a really adverse effect?
When is the meeting next month? Do you know the date of the meeting?
It'd be like April 21st or 2nd.
Is the third Wednesday,
4th.
fourth Wednesday?
Yeah, but it rips through April quicker than it did here with March.
Yeah, but the first of April is a Thursday. So the fourth Wednesday would not occur until the 28th, which is kind of a long time. That's all right. We gotta do it.
Looks to me like it would be April 28th,
Yeah, but their meeting
Okay.
is after.
the 2 days after the other board meeting they'll be at.
You say you're gonna go someplace on the 5th and then the 12th and then the 19th?
We were scheduled to go, we've received, just to give you background, I don't know if you have all the background, we've received preliminary plan approval from the Planning Commission and the commissioners earlier this year, and resubmitted this as a final. So they've seen these plans, and we've gone through many of the issues. We were scheduled for the April 5th, I think it is, Planning Commission, and the Board of Commissioners caucus, the following meeting, and then the Board of Commissioners regular meeting, I think was on the 24th or 26th, I forget which date that was,
Monday is the 26th.
26th.
It's the
And
5th,
we
the
meet on
12th,
the
and the
28th.
26th. Yeah.
So I don't think the board would act on it until they had the recommendations from the Shade Tree Commission. And so that would then put us into the board's meeting in May, is what the delay would be.
And what would be the impact on that overall?
I don't think that would be an enormous problem. I don't know what's gonna come up at the Planning Commission, whether they're gonna have a comment at their meeting in April anyway.
Then before, that'll be the second time or the third time before it goes before planning?
It might be the fourth time. We went to planning when we came in for zoning originally. We went to planning under preliminary plan, and they had some comments that they asked for us to go to the zoning hearing board on, back to the zoning hearing board. We went back to the zoning hearing board to get an interpretation on the stream corridor and closure of the stream, which they interpreted that we didn't need a variance for it, so then we had to go back to the Planning Commission for them to make a recommendation, which was in December. We went to the board caucus in early January, and then I can't remember, I think it was late January, the full board meeting for approval.
And then
And there's
you
a
go back-
list of about 12 conditions. Some of them are the environmental permits that we need for sewer, stream enclosure, and the NPDES. Others were tabulation of parking and square footage and things which have been added to the plan. There wasn't any significant design issues that we had to go back and revisit. Some more detailed information on the stormwater and the BMPs and the green roof that we're providing for the project, but there really wasn't any significant design changes. So the layout's the same as what was under the preliminary plan.
All of this will it will extend postpone your bidding, putting it out for bid, I would assume?
Well, it would impact the project schedule entirely, sure. We are currently at the schematic design phase. We've completed the schematic design phase, which has brought us far enough along to do this and to develop the property as you see it, and to bring Mara in and to help us envision, the future of the landscape for the program. And so we next would go into, as you understand, design development, and from that construction documentation, all of that toward being ready by late fall, at the very latest, for purposes of bidding and then going for financing. So every month that this pushes out and every return, obviously, it compromises our ability to meet that deadline, which ultimately rests on an ability to commence the project, the construction of the project in the spring of 2011.
Okay. The only other recommendation that I can make is that we, of members of the commission, actually do a site visit, and if we could, quote unquote, have a tour of what your intentions are, and at that time we can say yay or nay or make recommendations. Would that be acceptable?
Certainly. Are you available?
Is that acceptable to you all?
Like, you talking like next week or something?
Yeah, either next week or the following. We'll have to see how our schedules fall. But to
I
try,
believe that- excuse me.
to try to make certain that we understand the entire project without holding you back too much longer.
I would welcome that, and appreciate the opportunity to show you the campus landscape as it now exists and what our vision for the future is.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the inconvenience that would cause you. But
And if we did that, if that took place next week, say by Thursday the 1st or Friday the 2nd, they would still have enough time to play with it before the planning commission, is that right?
the following Monday, Monday the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the pressure.
Yeah.
Create pressure here. I just,
Right, no, I understand the schedule. Is that intense of a schedule acceptable to you, Jim?
Yeah, I'll do my best to.
Okay,
Get there.
Bill?
I'll try.
All right, let's see if we can set that up. I would suggest that we try and do it either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week.
I'd have to get back to you on
Right.
what day would work, not the beginning of the week, Howard.
That's the only thing I can suggest at this point. And if we can't figure out a way to pull it off, then I think we're going to have to ask you to come back next month.
Howard, we have a list of all the recommendations tonight. We have everything.
Thus far, yeah.
okay, just for a recap, that was tree protection. You have the 5 trees that were in question, you said, and the changes and recommendations in the species. I didn't write every single thing down, but did you? I'll be happy to go back and try to. Were there any other major issues that I missed?
Yeah, we talked about for those trees that will be severely impacted, that the roots are cut, the trees are fertilized prior to, any construction intrusion. And a professional arborist be on site at the time of the excavation.
Just a note on the sidewalk situation. Was there any mention of a semi-impervious sidewalk to be put down to avoid or to help aid that row of maple trees survive the actual cut that they're going to take?
We could look at that. We certainly can look at that. We were just specifying the standard sidewalk at this juncture.
I'm just curious, if, at the initial construction phase, if it's the same, then all the roots are going to be cut no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at root regeneration, it'd be better if there was a semi-permeable sidewalk put down that would help encourage some more fiber shoots to come out of those trees right away. But on the other hand, we don't want to be lifting up this. There's going to have to be a root barrier put down, so we don't have a constant problem with this sidewalk heaving up when these maple trees start throwing roots back up again.
Right,
Is this along Eighth Avenue? Is that where you're talking?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sorry to leave you hanging like this, but we'll do our best to get out on site. And any other investigation or any other clues that you can give us regarding grading, impact upon what your intentions are here, I think would be most helpful.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay?
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I have it on computer.
Okay, 8:37 Parks Run, sorry to keep you waiting.
Good evening. Dave Fiorello from Omni and Associates.
And thank you for waiting. That was a long time to wait.
No problem. We're back from last month. I believe Brian Mattson from my office was here last month and presented a plan for a single-family tear-down, construction of a new home at 837 Parks Run Lane. We had prepared permit plans for this site. They were submitted to the board for another owner about 3 years ago. At that time, the project, or the house has been demoed. So we're showing a demolition plan here. The existing house today, as we're standing here now, the house does not exist. So we're sort of, the driveway is still there, the house is gone, but we're presenting you with the plan pretty much as we had presented last month, where we're showing a number of trees to come down. The construction is for a new home, with stormwater management system, and if I can go to the erosion sediment control plan where we discuss some trees, and maybe if I go, we had prepared a landscape plan. I know the board had a number of comments last month about the several ash trees and the large oak tree that's on the site that we're showing to preserve. Our intent is to keep those trees. We have tweaked the grading around the building somewhat to lessen some of the grading on those trees. We've pulled back our grade lines in the front somewhat. We've pulled our grading adjacent to the side around so that we're trying to limit the disturbance and the grading within the drip lines of those trees. We have listed as the number of trees to remove, and we have added a list, if you go to sheet 2 of your plan, where we have these trees noted as being impacted by construction. And what we're saying here is the intent is that the trees noted to be impacted, and I think they're shown on the first sheet with a triangle around the trees, that the intent is to preserve those trees, but we're saying that in the event that any of those trees die within 18 months of construction, the owner will provide the replacement trees for that. We are providing replacement trees in accordance with the formula required by the township. The plan shows 39 trees to be removed. 37 of those trees are less than 24 inch in diameter. there are 2 trees between 24 and 36, which requires, based on the replacement formula, of 41 new trees. And like I said, on top of that, we're not including the 5 trees, or the 5 ash trees and the oak tree in that list, but we're making provisions that we will replace them if the need be. We've added a note on the first sheet about care of existing trees. We've added some additional information about disturbance of the roots to be cleanly cut, the trees to be fed prior to construction. So some of the concerns that I think you had expressed to the last applicant we're trying to address on the plan here are landscape, or our erosion sediment control plan shows the degree of the tree protection. There is an existing driveway that comes through here now. The driveway is being relocated, so we've noted that the tree protection to be at least installed along the driveway until the driveway is removed, and then once that's done and closed up, so that we're taking that area of the disturbance. So with the changes that we made, with the additional trees that we've added to the list, again, we do have, there is a landscape architect who's in the process of putting together a landscape plan. The trees that I have shown on this plan, the number of shade trees and flowering trees and evergreen trees, based on the information that he has given me. We have the tree list, and I think they're still in the process of determining which trees they're going to include there, but I'm hoping that we've addressed your concerns tonight with these revised plans.
Okay. So the existing driveway, excuse me, the existing driveway is still in place?
The existing driveway is still in place, that is correct. And that is what I've done on sheet 3. I don't know if you can see it on this plan as we come in here, but in very light print is sort of the outline of the current, or the pre-development condition. So you can see that the driveway comes between the 23-inch ash and the 20-inch ash. Now that is being shifted between the 220s, so it's being shifted over.
Okay. And the removal process of that existing drive, what's the recommendation there?
Just to take up the blacktop and the base material and to replace it with topsoil and whatever's required for, our typical planting mix.
There going to be a lot of weight going over that as they do that? Yeah, crushing the roots.
There shouldn't be. I mean, that's something that could be pulled up with a backhoe, and it's just a matter of peeling the blacktop and just with the front end loader sort of scooping out the stones to, because right now it's probably a typical 6-inch crushed stone with how many, maybe a couple inches of blacktop on it. So it should be a matter of peeling back the blacktop in chunks that could be then put into a truck and disposed of, and then scooping out the stone and replacing it with topsoil.
What's the timeline on the driveway removal, new driveway going in?
Well, we have included our sequence of construction where that would probably be one of the first things, because we're showing a new construction entrance where the new driveway is, so that the new driveway will take all the construction traffic. The removal of the existing driveway would be one of the first things. Well, the first thing would be put up the tree protection and our silt fence, and then remove the existing resident designated paving and patio. So the existing residence is down, so the paving and removals would be one of the first things, is what we're looking at as part of our sequence. And then, so that this area could be restored while construction traffic is coming in, where the new driveway will be.
On this sheet, on this sheet that we're looking at right now, the tree protection fencing around the 27-inch oak that's to the west of the,
Yes.
can you expand that at all? It looks like it's kind of a wavy line, and can you move that out?
Closer to.
Essentially any direction, but especially towards the new house and towards the water.
I think we can, I was figuring that we have our stormwater collection, we have a couple inlets in the patio drains in the patio, and we're taking them around, so I was leaving enough room, what I figured would be a backhoe or whatever, to dig through there, and, you know, there's going to be a certain amount of construction traffic. I didn't want to get too generous with the construction traffic, but I didn't want to lie about the fencing and not have enough room in there. So it's a balance, and I can see what we can do to pull it closer, but I felt that this was probably a good balance with knowing how much work is going to be around the house and
So for instance, in the northeast corner there, where it kind of cuts the corner, if you were even to go out to a right angle there where your
Sure,
index finger was.
right in here.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly we
You know,
can do
anything
that.
you can help there, and then where it goes to the property line where you have it cut in, if there
Yes.
isn't a need, having that just go straight across.
I can certainly do that, pull that closer and hug the building a little bit more. Certainly I can do that.
And as was recommended in the last plan that was presented to us, specifically for that tree, you know, perhaps chain link would be much more secure than the typical snow fence.
Consider it done.
Okay.
Just a note for clarification on the sewer line here.
Yes,
It's the existing sewer
the
line.
sewer line is existing. It is, we believe it's deep enough to be able to serve the existing dwelling as it is. So our intent is to utilize the existing line, so we're not digging up the street, first of all, with a new tap in, and then again, running another trench through the trees. The
How-
intent is there.
How old do you think the sewer line is? How old's the house that got torn down?
Well,
Did you scope
it's
it?
plastic pipe, so I mean, it's not a clay pipe or something that's prone to fracture or anything, so it's a heavy walled plastic pipe that is the type that's used now.
Did they scope it or anything to see if it's,
Okay, the township will come out and inspect it, but they won't do it until we pull the permit.
I'm just saying it'd be worthwhile for you to do it, so then you don't know if you have to rip it up again. Because most of the times you end up ripping it up and then you trench right through the trees. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what happens all the time. I mean, what's the house gonna be worth? A couple million?
I'm not that privileged.
But I mean,
I just prepare the plans.
we're hooking it up to a 30-year-old sewer line. I think it would make sense to put in a new sewer line while you're building the house,
Well,
right?
the thing is, when,
Township controls that. The sewer department will come out and make that determination for us when we open it. They scope it, we'll make that call. Chances are, if it's SDR pipe, it's really not that old, and there typically won't be a problem with it, like roots growing through it, like pipe. The sewers on Parks are not that old.
yeah, I was gonna say, they're not that old, and that the 20 years maybe would probably be an age for something like this, because I think the sewers on Parks Run were just extended here, I'm gonna say 15, 20 years ago or so. They're not that old. And the pipe, assuming it was installed correctly, should be in good shape. I mean, the pipe comes in 10-foot lengths, they're all belt and spigot with gasketed, so that really you shouldn't have any problems with roots in there that would cause any type of deterioration of the pipe. And being SDR 35, it is a fairly thick material. It's not the real thin plastic that's prone to breaking.
Talking schedule D.
I'm sorry?
Like Schedule D pipe? Could you think of that?
Yeah.
On the south end of the property, there are two pines coming out. And what's the reason for that?
These two down in the corner, I guess, down at the bottom here.
Yeah.
Yes, uh-huh.
I believe I was told they're declining, and that was the intent to take them out. I think they probably have started branching up from the bottom, and the intent was to sort of clean them up.
Do they offer any screening whatsoever from the back neighbor?
When I was out at the site a couple weeks ago looking through here, you can see the buildings behind it. And again, with our landscape plan, the intent is to provide that additional screen to sort of replace that back there.
And then there are two spruces on the west side, just southwest of the oak that's, remaining that you're doing the protection on. There are two,
These-
yes, those two. And do you know what the reason for those coming out is?
I believe it's the same reason. I was told by the landscape architect that they're the ones that they had chosen to pick out to remove. There must have been, a good reason that I don't know about, but being out there again, I did notice that they were very vine covered and they were, coming up from the bottom. So I think the intent there is that to provide some, replacement screening per the landscape plan along that area there, that it sort of makes sense that, the older trees, and like I said, they're not in the greatest condition. Of course, I'm not a tree expert, but from my sense, they're time to go.
I think that the issue in question is if they're not really being impacted by construction and they're just being removed to plant a screening. Again, they're mature trees.
Okay.
A screening can be developed beneath the canopy of mature trees if the right species are chosen. And then, once, the screening becomes somewhat established, if it's believed that, the mature trees need to go, or at least you've got something started. I'm just concerned that you're taking 4 trees down, mature trees that perhaps still have a significant life left to them to establish a small screening.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Matthew Paolino, and I've been contracted by the property owner, Greg and Kathy Norden, to do the construction work for them. I know they met with the landscape architect, and the issues with those trees were twofold. Number one, they sort of are developing that lion's tail look, and they didn't like just the appearance of them. In addition, there was issues with sunlight. They want to have as much light as they can in their property. Presently, I believe they live in Ravenscliff or something where they have no light coming into their house. And one of the biggest things is they want to have light come into their home. And about all those trees do for them is block sunlight without really offering any buffer down low. And so they wanted to, and they contracted with a landscape architect, Bern Panzak, to develop a plan that's going to accomplish that, at the same time meet the requirements of the code, taking trees down and offering complete compensatory plantings. They're not asking for any waivers, and they're even willing to provide replacement for any of those trees in the front that may be damaged. So even if down the line we have to replace the sewer or do something within that front yard there, the Nordens are prepared to compensate as necessary trees in that fashion in those areas. So
they've sort of taken the mindset that if something was to happen to one of those trees, they'll replace it up front, and they're going to, they're replacing every tree as necessary, but they want to do it in a way where they do maintain a property that gets a good bit of sunlight. They want to have some sunlight on their house, which they don't have presently. And so that's one of the goals they're trying to accomplish here. And the trees that they're looking at, they're not really pretty, especially from their perspective down low. What they see is just the bottom of the trunk, and the greenery of the trees is really something they don't get to enjoy. So they're trying to replace it with trees that'll sort of give them that benefit.
None of the trees are identified in the landscape plan, is that correct?
I have,
With the list.
we have a list of the recommended trees per the township code. We've got them identified as shade trees, flowering trees, or evergreen trees, but like I said, I think their plan was still in developing, and, they haven't picked the species and things like that yet.
Right, do you know what code they're using by the drawings? So in the southwest corner, what those trees, what the 3 tree symbols mean? Well, you can tell me what those that you're just pointing at are.
These three, the symbol we have down here in the legend, there would be some type of an evergreen tree. There's a right.
Oh, here's the legend,
yeah.
okay, sorry, I wasn't finding the legend, okay.
Okay, are there any other issues you gentlemen have to raise? Would you like to suggest that whatever screening evergreens that they would plant would be similar to those that we recommended in the last plan?
So at least where the ones are put together so closely, it looks to me like they're calling for something like Western arborvitaes, which would be a good, or green giants would be a good usage. Leyland cypress would not be a good use, and I don't think actually Eastern arborvitae would be a good
No.
use either.
If you look at Eastern arborvitae after the snows that we've had this winter,
Yes, I've seen.
you shouldn't be
remnants of a
planting
lot
them
of
in.
Whereas the Western arborvitae's held up much better. And cryptomeria would also work. And it looks like larger evergreens are being planned for the eastern side.
Yes.
And so the ones from the list would be good on that.
When we saw this once before, did we not?
You did,
Yeah.
a month ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, we
right,
were
see,
here
and
last month.
Yeah.
I know it was suggested that it was asked whether or not it'd be possible to move the house back, but we decided not to do that, is that correct?
That's correct. The Nordens really are set on where they want to have their house.
We pulled.
They want to have some of, something of a backyard. The house, the way the property's shaped, it sort of comes in the back, and they didn't want to,
Make it any smaller.
yeah.
I can understand that. But you changed the grading in the front.
We pulled the grading in the front back somewhat, we pulled the grading in the side somewhat, and so to sort of respect what's happening. with
The
trees.
disturbance in the front now really doesn't even extend into the
Trees.
drip line. We tried to pull it back as much as conceivable, as much as possible.
That's fine.
okay, we good with it?
We'll pass that tree information on to the landscape architect.
Okay. Very good,
Thank you.
Very much.
thank
We're
you.
approving it, is that correct?
Pardon?
You're approving this, is that right? I'm taking.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm approving it.
Yes, the tree protection fence around the oak.
Yeah, that was
is
the
to
one
be,
condition was,
expanded as much as possible,
With a-
and it's to
with a-
be
with
put
a-
in permanently, like
With
such as a
sidewalk.
chain link
Yeah, chain
fence.
link fence. Very good.
okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Again, thank you for waiting. Okay, I have just a couple things that I would like to bring to your attention. Take that over to Jim. Last week, there was a symposium put together by Penn State and the Pennsylvania Forestry Department regarding the structure of shade tree ordinances. The discussion evolved around the structure of ordinances, and Penn State's ordinance, ironically, has been considered as one of the prime examples in Pennsylvania of a sound shade tree ordinance. I took some notes while we were going through that exercise, and they are scribbled throughout the ordinance. And on the next to last page on the back, I have more notes that I wrote down regarding some of the suggestions that were being made regarding updated ordinances. Some of the things that were discussed in that particular seminar we addressed tonight informally. For example, they do not allow snow fence. Everything has to be chain link fence. They do require a bond for the replacement of trees that's extended out 12 to 18 months. They do allow for setback requirements or considerations rather, that those setbacks be relaxed when significant trees are being threatened. So in the example tonight, the township would have the option to relax a setback requirement if indeed, a 40-inch oak needed to come down. So we're not going to solve this tonight, but I did want to present this with you, and what I will start is an email conversation with you all. And I ask you to review this ordinance in comparison with our existing ordinance, because I think there are some qualities to this that we do not have. The basic structure of these two ordinances is remarkably similar considering the time frame difference in which they were created. I think this one came out in maybe 2005, whereas ours was 1990. So even though there's that 15-year difference, some good things have come out of their revision. The other piece of paper that I offered is something that in that seminar, I met with several people from other shade tree commissions, and one of the issues that was brought up is that the residents of the township often are not knowledgeable of the fact there is a shade tree commission. One of the municipalities, which was Media, said that most of their residents are aware of the Shade Tree Commission and of its purpose, and one of the reasons is that they put together this simple little flyer that the municipality sent to every resident in the township. And I'll be discussing that with you all via email also. I think with the township's cooperation, this is probably a good information source. I've also presented both the ordinance and the flyer to the township engineer today, and we'll include him in our discussions. And I think that's pretty much it. April 30th is Radnor Township's Arbor Day ceremony this year. And again, we will be recognized as a Tree City USA. This year it will be held at Cabrini College. And Radnor Middle School watershed students will be the participatory education group involved in that ceremony. Anyone have anything else good for the order? Okay, thank you very much.